Okay, here we go. From across the country. Good. Well, thanks for joining us all. And just to continue the conversation and the focus around a sort of more resilient and circular community. And I think that what we're going to have here is a really a broad set of understandings and ways of thinking about circularity and resiliency. And a resilient community, is one that is designed to eliminate waste and pollution and circulate products and materials so that their full value is made use of, and it regenerates nature and can be an important part of the way that we build out our community. And so it's good for our people, our communities, the environment. And, this is something that I think that a number of folks are working on in Fairfield and across Iowa and certainly across the country itself. And so, as I said, we've got somewhere behind that screen, we've got our set of speakers that will explore the possibilities from fashion, to household products, cleaning products, etc., and also from furniture design and the like. So
we're having a little technical difficulty. Question, can they hear us?
I don't know.
She can? So she hears us, go ahead and can't see them. We just do it on audio.
Hear you, yeah.
Let's just do the audio. Yeah, until the video.
All right. So then, all right, here we go. So first up is Alden Wicker. So for the last decade, Alden has been covering the dirty side of fast fashion, from its contributions to the climate crisis, to greenwashing, to multi-level marketing schemes. In 2013, Alden founded the blog EcoCult and soon became perhaps the most popular authority on sustainable fashion. Her book, To Die For, D-Y-E, asks readers to consider the impact that chemically treated fabrics and synthetic fibers can have on your health and the environment. So, Alden, we're going to have your voice, and soon we'll have your face and image. Take it away, Alden.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So it's actually Alden. I know the I and the L can be really easy to mix up, but I am the author of, I'm going to talk to you today about toxic fashion. I have a whole presentation, but it's a book. I wrote it, so I don't need visual aid to talk to you about what I found. So I could just talk to you about this topic. And like was said, I have been writing about sustainable fashion for over a decade. And when I first got started, I got into this because of the food movement, because the food movement, buying locally, buying from the farmer's market, buying whole and fresh, cooking my own food really revolutionized my health. And so I started looking around and I started saying, okay, well, it probably matters where we get our other things from, like beauty and fashion and everything. But I did not make the connection from fashion to our health until 2019. That's when I was asked by a radio show to come on and comment about a lawsuit from Delta Airlines attendants against Land's End. And they said these Land's End uniforms, these new uniforms, which were polyester blend, anti-wrinkle, flame retardant, stain proof, brightly colored, they said they were making them sick. And I'd never heard about fashion making anybody sick before. So I started looking into it because I wanted to know, okay, first of all, some of the things that these airline attendants were, oh, yay, I'm on the screen. Hi, everybody. Okay, great. Now you can connect a face to my voice. How's it going so far? Yeah, great. Okay. So let me, oh, nope, there it goes. Okay, well, anyway, I'll keep going because I know we have a limited time, and maybe I can share my screen. Okay, great. Okay, amazing. There it is. Okay, so here we are. So some of the problems that these flight attendants were experiencing were pretty horrendous. It would start with a rash. The rash would be so bad that it would feel like sun poisoning, or they would have a cough, brain fog, headache, breathing problems. They would get swollen eyes when they were wearing the uniforms. Some of them started experiencing hair loss so bad that they went completely bald, menstrual problems, heart palpitations, extreme fatigue. Some of them would just become completely disabled when they got to work, put on the uniform, and stepped onto the plane. Some of them continued to have reactions even when they were around their colleagues, even when they were allowed to wear a look-alike uniform. And this wasn't the first time this happened. It happened at Alaska Airlines with new uniforms, American Airlines, at Southwest. That's still ongoing. And so I wanted to know, okay, what is making these flight attendants sick? And if this is a problem for flight attendants, is this a problem for normal people as well? And so, obviously these flight attendants were not getting what they needed from their managers and the companies they work for. They were told, oh, maybe you're just going through menopause. Maybe you're depressed. Maybe you have anxiety. Maybe it's all in your head. But there was a peer-reviewed research study out of Harvard that connected very strongly the introduction of new uniforms to Alaska Airlines to essentially the doubling of a lot of these different symptoms. And these are just acute things. I interviewed a bunch of flight attendants, and I've kept up with them, and some of them have developed autoimmune diseases, cancer, skin cancer. So there were long-term implications for these flight attendants' health. And the reason why these flight attendants were even able to figure out what was going on with them was the fact that they would wear these uniforms together for 12 hours a day or more. And they were able to talk to each other and say, okay, I was healthy before I got these uniforms, and now I have all these symptoms, and you have symptoms too. And, this woman, Heather Poole, started a Facebook group where they could all talk to each other and share information. So it was very clear that something was happening. But if you or I were having an allergic reaction or were being made sick with one of these symptoms by one or two or three of our pieces of clothing or a lot of our clothing, we probably wouldn't really understand what was happening to us, because a lot of these reactions can show up days after you put the uniforms on, things like rashes. Your doctor, if you go to your doctor, will be like, I haven't heard of this before, are you sure? Or might not even think to ask you about what you're wearing. So it's really hard for normal people to connect some of their symptoms to what is in their clothing. But there's clues that something is wrong. So chemical sensitivity diagnoses are going up, but that doesn't include people who call it mast cell activation syndrome, or just, I can't be around scented products. Eczema is going up. Cancer, actually, maybe some of you have heard, rates of cancer in young people are going up in a really alarming way. This is research coming out in the past 6 months. Autoimmune diseases are going up. Fertility for both men and women is going down. It's becoming harder for even women and men in their prime childbearing years to get pregnant and carry it through to birth. So something is happening, and a lot of people believe that at least one of the factors is the presence of hazardous chemicals in our environment. And one of those places those chemicals can show up is in fashion. So here's just a few news items around different things that have been found in clothing in the past 5 to 10 years. BPA, which is an endocrine disruptor, a hormone disrupting chemical. You might recognize it from the baby bottle scare a decade ago. It's also in the clothing that we sweat in. Thinks a period panty brand settled a lawsuit because there was PFAS in its period panties. PFAS is that Teflon chemical. It's carcinogenic, reproductive toxic. It's called the class of forever chemicals because it just never goes away. There was testing done of Shein and Zaful children's clothing. They found lead and phthalates in very high levels. PFAS again was found in kids' school uniforms that were marketed as stain-proof. So this is happening, and it can be really scary. So why are chemicals in our clothing? Well, clothing actually has some of the most complicated chemistry of any consumer product that you and I can buy. So as it's moving through this really complex supply chain in countries where they don't have a very strong EPA equivalent that is regulating the use of these things, that, you know, there are chemicals that are put, just take cotton. There's chemicals that are put on cotton so it can be cleaned, and then so it can be spun. And then the chemicals are used to take off those chemicals so it can go to the next step of the process of being woven. And then it's prepared for being dyed, and then it's dyed, and then it's finished. And then, and then there's like contaminating chemicals. So for example, a lot of these countries where this fabric is being shipped around and stored still allow some highly, highly toxic pesticides and biocides. So it can be contaminated while it's being stored or while it's being shipped. So there's a lot of different types of chemicals and reasons why chemicals can end up on our clothing. But what you see is a little tag that says 98% polyester, because anything that is under 5% of the weight of the product is not required to be listed on the tag. It's not like cleaning products. It's not like food products. It's not like beauty products. There could be many different known allergens on our clothing, and it will, and that won't be shared with you, the consumer. And there's actually not a lot of legislation in the United States about this. There are 3 chemicals that are regulated at the federal level and only for children's clothing: lead, phthalates, and cadmium. So you're not being protected right now either. I'm going to go a little bit faster because I know I have a short amount of time, but everybody should care about this. People who have asthma, people trying to get pregnant, people with eczema and psoriasis, people with cancer in their family or who have had cancer in their own health history, people with mast cell activation syndrome or chemical sensitivities, people with autoimmune disease or chronic illness, and of course, people with children. So a lot of people ask me, okay, what do I do? Very quickly, there are things you can do to reduce your exposure. Avoid ultra fast fashion brands and knockoffs. Don't shop from social media ads from brands you've never heard of before. If it's too cheap to be true, it's probably toxic. Amazon brands can be particularly toxic. Find brands that you trust. I have a lot of guidance on my website, ecocult.com. Look for these labels. Blue Sign and Okotex are both really good for toxicity. Unfortunately, the organic label does not denote whether it's toxic or not. It just pretty much governs what happens in the field. And I've done some investigation showing that actually some certified organic clothing has been giving people allergic reactions. So sorry, organic does not mean non-toxic. So look for Blue Sign and Okotex. Natural materials whenever possible. They're not perfect, but they tend to be safer and less allergenic than synthetic materials. Avoid performance and marketing promises. So if it promises to be anti-wrinkle, stain-proof, water-resistant, sweat wicking, anti-odor, most of these are almost always applied using a chemical finish that has hazardous substances in it, such as formaldehyde, PFAS, and nanosilver. Wash your new clothes before you wear them. You don't know where they've been. Buy secondhand or swap with your friends. If it smells bad, that's a really good indication that it has a hazardous chemical finish on it. So yeah, smell it, send it back, or smell it in the store. Some people are more sensitive than others, but that's a really good indication. I've heard that some of these ultra fast fashion brands, these packages can arrive and smell like gasoline. Okay, so in honor of Earth Day, because Earth Day was founded as a day of action and political action and community involvement, and we're not going to just shop our way out of this problem. So there's some things that you can ask your representatives to do. You can ask them to fund and empower the EPA to assess and regulate hazardous chemicals. The EPA doesn't govern what's in our clothing, but what the EPA says around what chemicals are considered safe or hazardous and at what level has a ripple effect across the world and also for consumer products. So they are starting to crank up and review more chemicals for their safety because of the pass of the Toxic Substances Control Act. So that's really exciting, but they need more funding and more power to actually assess these chemicals. Fund and empower the Consumer Product Safety Commission. So the Consumer Product Safety Commission is severely, severely, severely underfunded. I mean, it's the only thing that the chemical industry and the Sierra Club can agree on, which is like they just don't have the capacity right now to keep us safe from known hazardous substances and products that are giving people reactions. If you go to the CPSC website, there's actually a public thing where you can see people reporting, I've gotten a chemical burn from this. But right now, they're not even forcing recalls of products that have hundreds of reports of chemical burns. They have to have thousands, and then they sort of like negotiate with the brand to do a voluntary recall, which is not enough. Ask your representative to overhaul the de minimis standard. Essentially, it means that any package coming in or shipment coming into the United States that's worth less than $800 is not tariffed and not checked. So if your tween daughter decides to order something from Shein, nobody is looking at what is in that package from the time it leaves the factory to the time she opens it inside your home. So it could be filled with razor blades and nobody would know. This is also giving brands like Shein an advantage because they're shipping package by package into the United States. They shipped there were over 1 billion packages, individual packages pouring into the United States last year, which is double the year before, and nobody's checking them. Nobody's tariffing them. Ban the presence of PFAS in all consumer products, including apparel. Require complete ingredient labeling on clothing like we do for other consumer products. And you can support these advocacy organizations if you're looking for a volunteer opportunity or a good charitable donation. Safer States works state by state to start to ban or limit certain hazardous chemicals in certain consumer products. And the way this works is that it's really hard to pass things at the federal level like this, but once enough states start putting in this legislation, it gets a little bit chaotic, and then the federal government will be like, okay, we need to do something about this, so we're going to have a federal standard. So it's actually a really effective way to have your voice heard in a more powerful way than going straight to the federal government to support legislation in your state. So that's a really great way. And then Toxic Free Future is another advocacy organization that has been working on hazardous chemicals and toxic chemicals in all types of consumer products, including in fashion. And you can learn more if you want to keep up with what's going on or you're looking for more recommendations. I recommend you read my book. It's available as an audiobook, as a digital book, and probably at your local bookstore. And then ecocult.com has a lot of different resources on what to buy, how to buy, deep dives. If you're somebody who's chemically sensitive or has eczema or a chronic illness, we have a lot of content for you that will help you not only with fashion, but with your beauty products and home products. So that's it. Thank you so much.